All right, so this right here is the Leica Q2 Reporter Edition. And for 90% of photographers today, they're gonna tell you this is an old camera. But despite the age, I purchased one in 2025 to be my everyday carry camera. I wanna share kind of my thoughts on why it's still a relevant camera in 2025 and why I feel like this is the best Leica to buy right now. So let's start off with the biggest question. Why not the Q3 over the Q2? I mean, the Q3 is newer, it has updated features, more megapixels. Why not the Q3? Now, to be completely honest, the reason why I chose the Q2 over the Q3 was because of this special Reporter Edition. Now, if you look here, it has that beautiful green paint. And if you've been following my channel for a while now, you guys know I've always been obsessed with this particular camera, the Q2 Reporter Edition. But the second reason why I chose the Q2 over the Q3 is because of the price. Simply put, the Q3 is just very, very expensive. I think it retails, close to 7K, like around $6,500. And as a result of the Q3 being released, all of the Q2 owners were getting rid of their Q2s for a very good price. And for a camera like the Q2 to go for roughly about half of what it retailed when it first came out, you're getting an extremely, extremely powerful camera that is going to last you a lifetime, even in today's standards. In fact, there was actually a point in time where I gave up on my dreams of owning a Q2. It was just too expensive over the years, and I could never really see myself, dropping the money for one. But how I got my Q2 was actually a very special story, and it started when I was doing some spring cleaning in my room, and I realized I had so much random gear that I just really wasn't using anymore. And that was when I decided to trade in all of that gear to get one of my dream cameras, the Q2, on MPB. MPB is the largest global platform to buy, sell, and trade all of your used photography and videography gear. And because of MPB, I was able to trade in some old gear for my Leica Q2. The first thing I did was just go over to the website, locate the Q2 that I wanted. Then I simply got an instant quote for the gear that I wanted to trade in. And afterwards, I just used the provided shipping labels that MPB sent me, shipped my gear off, and a few days later, after they received my gear, they sent me the Leica Q2. And one of the best things about all of the gear that you get from MPB is that they give you a 6-month warranty to cover and protect your gear. I highly recommend using MPB if you have any extra gear laying around that you just want extra cash for, or maybe if there's a camera that you've always wanted. MPB has served over 600,000 global customers, and in my opinion is the best way to get your used photography or videography gear a second life. So head over to mpb.com today to start buying or selling and trading your gear. I'm gonna leave links in the description below. And if there's a camera like the Q2 on your grail list, just know that you are one click away with MPB. Now, the Leica Q2 is my everyday camera. In fact, it's probably a street photographer's dream. But the thing is, I actually traded in the Sony a7C II for the Q2. And the Sony a7C II was sort of my workhorse camera. I used it for portraits, for video content, wedding work. I used it for, different commercials. And, it was sort of like the main camera in my kit for professional work. And so the first thing that I needed to figure out was, will the Q2 be able to cover the photography side of things? And if so, how well would it perform?
The easy answer is yes, but it is a little bit more complicated. Now, working with the Leica Q2 was very surprising, as I didn't really expect this camera to perform the way it did. This was my first digital Leica experience, and with the Q2 I was skeptical as to how this would perform in a portrait scenario, so I took it on a gig with me for a portrait session, and it actually turned out really, really well. The images from the Q2 felt very warm and welcoming, and it had this certain look that honestly I just never really had with a digital camera. In fact, I used the Q2 for a variety of different professional shoots, including product photos for my book. Now, I didn't tell anybody this, but the entire product photography side of my book here was shot purely on the Q2. And as you can see, the camera actually performed extremely well. But this raised a big question for me, and that was, how is this 6-year-old camera performing so well even in today's standard? And the answer to that has to do with Leica's genius design.
But even though this camera is a little bit older than, you know, the Sony a7C II, I wasn't really worried about performance because I feel like the Q2 still can perform in today's standards really well. It's kind of a future-proof camera. Now, the standard for megapixels when this camera was released was around, I want to say 24 megapixels, but the Q2 actually has a 47.3 megapixel sensor, which is going to be a lot more than even my Sony a7C II that was 33 megapixels. And while it may not have the same kind of dynamic range or be able to really shoot impressive video, in terms of a photography camera, the Q2 is still unbeatable in my opinion. I actually been using it as sort of my only camera, and in terms of, you know, street photography, this is a street photographer's dream.
Now, in the first half of the video, I talked primarily about the specs of the camera. You know, it was 47.3 megapixels, 28mm 1.7 lens that is extremely sharp. But what really matters to me about a camera is the shooting experience, as well as more so just the overall results. And in this half of the video here, I want to kind of emphasize why I feel like the Leica Q2 is actually a better choice for photographers over the M mount cameras. Now, I've actually owned the Q2 now for a little bit under 2 months. I want to say like a month and a half. I took this thing to Austin, Texas with me, all around San Francisco. I took it to the coast of California. And I gotta say, I have a pretty good feel about this camera, but there were a couple of adjustments that I needed to make in order for it to feel like a camera that I could shoot all the time. Now, the first adjustment that I made to this camera, which by the way, probably isn't a real adjustment, is I always have the Q2's lens hood on. I personally really love the look of the Q2 lens hood. It's a square lens hood, and when you take it off, I don't know, for some reason, it just makes the camera, or maybe even just the lens there, look really big. Now, the next adjustment that I made was I added this thumb grip right here. Now, this is the actual Leica thumb grip that you can get for the Q2, but the thumb grip, in my opinion, completely changed the ergonomics of the camera. Now, the next adjustment that I made to the camera was I completely turned off the LCD screen on the back of my camera. Now, I did this for a couple of different reasons. The first one is for battery life and performance. And secondly, I personally love to frame all my shots through a viewfinder. Essentially, treat this like a film camera. I take pictures through the viewfinder, and then I forget about it, and then I only look at the images once I get home and I put it into the computer. Now, probably the biggest adjustment that I made on the Q2 has to be the different shooting color profiles that you have. There's a couple of basic profiles baked into the camera, like vivid. I think there's like a standard profile. You got a black and white and a high contrast, but the two that I found to be the absolute best, that give me the most accurate color rendition to what I see in real life, is going to be standard color. And then when it comes to black and white, it's going to be the high contrast black and white. I don't really like the just regular black and white from the camera. I feel like it's a little bit too flat. The high contrast black and white is everything that I love about black and white photography. I think the Q2 is probably the best choice in the Leica camera system right now over the M mount cameras. And here's why. When Leica released the Q3, I saw a flood of people getting rid of their Q2s. So when the Q3 came out and people were selling their Q2s for sometimes less than 3K, I've seen them go as low as like 2,600, 2,700 in the local market kind of Facebook posts. I knew then that the Q2 was a bit more attainable. And I think that is one of the main reasons why I recommend this camera over an M mount camera. You know, comparing sort of the specs to, let's just say, for example, like a Leica M9, you know, you're getting 47.3 megapixels in this Q2, whereas in the M9, I think you're getting about 18. When you jump up to the M10, you're getting 24 megapixels. And it's not until you get to the Leica M11 that you get 60 megapixels. But when you look at the price of a Leica M11, you're gonna be expecting to pay around $7,000 to $8,000 for that camera. And that is without a lens. Folks, the Leica Q2 has 47 megapixels and a 28mm 1.7 Summilux lens, which is absolutely outrageous, because if you're going to pay around 3K for this camera, you are getting not only a steal on this lens, but you're getting the body basically for free. The Q2 right now is the best valued Leica camera, and I can say that just from, you know, lusting over Leica cameras over the years. No, the Q2 is not a true rangefinder camera, but it is pretty dang close. I want to say it's about maybe 80 to 90% of what you would get with an M mount camera in the Q2. And so if you're somebody out there who's always wanted a Leica camera and wanted that true kind of rangefinder feel experience, I personally would go for the Q2. And if you guys want to see more content on this camera, maybe you want to see kind of how I set up the camera for street photography, let me know in the comment section down below. But that's going to be it. I'll see you all in the next one. As always, Minolta Gang.